Hi, everybody. Welcome. My name is Mark Hilliard. I'm a master here on the Arcanum, and today we're having a Challenge 5 critique with Joe Lubbock. And I have had the opportunity to preview Joe's images, and they're all quite nice. You're going to enjoy this. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Joe. And Joe, if you could give us just a little bit of background on where you come from photographically, the type of equipment that you like to shoot, and where you envision yourself going here in the Arcanum, we would all very much appreciate it. But it's over to you, Joe.
Well, I've been taking pictures for over 30 years in some way, shape, or form. I got introduced to kind of serious photography when I was in the military in the 70s in Germany. Spent a lot of time working in a dark room over there, doing a lot of black and white kind of stuff. When I came back to the United States, I met a guy that was he was an orthopedic surgeon actually, and he was a sailor, and he used a large format Pentax camera, and he took pictures of sailboats, and these were just magnificent images, and he took them from shore. He would have these people sail their boats by him, and I worked with him in the darkroom, and he taught me a whole lot about that kind of stuff. And then off and on, I've stayed with film all the way through, but I've had some pretty large gaps and stuff. And then so for the last 10 years, I've been shooting with Nikon and Canon digital cameras. And I have I'm an older Pentax film camera that I continue to use. Currently, my main camera that I shoot with now is a Canon 5D, and I have a mixture of lenses. Rokinon and Canon lenses are the main ones, but I have some adapters for some older Nikon glass and stuff like that I use. I'm also starting to get back into bigger format film with a 4x5 camera. I have lenses from about 90 to about 120, and they're older lenses from, I think might even date from the 60s. I'm not positive. They're quite heavy, and they take really nice pictures. But right now, until I get settled darkroom wise, that's kind of for the spring for me is where I'm looking at it right now. As far as my future goes in the Arcanum and stuff, I just want to get consistent in terms of the pictures that I'm taking to where I feel comfortable with them. Develop a more critical eye, and which is already happening, which is a good offshoot of this in terms of looking for noise and just getting a good overall print, kind of going back to the black and white darkroom kind of thing of getting a good print from end to end, and that's kind of what I'm looking for at this point. That's my main goal right now. It's kind of a personal goal. Commercially, I do some product and portraiture photography. I'm actually kind of moving away from the portraiture stuff. Everybody and their brother's a portraiture photographer these days. My brother will do it for free. Well, we want you to do it still. No, my brother's friend will do it for free. So I'm kind of moving away from that stuff right now. I've got a couple people that I still work for, but kind of moving away from that. And I just want to kind of get back into just doing scenics, and that's basically where I'm at.
Okay, very good. You have a very varied background that goes way back.
Yes.
Well, as long as me, but not quite. But that's very, very impressive. Now, just as a real quick side note, what film do you like to shoot with, and what developer do you favor?
Well, the developer is Kodak, basically. I can't even remember the name, but it's Tri-X Film, is for sure, is what I really like.
Okay.
And Agfa, black and white when you can find it. I like that.
Okay. Agfa has re-entered the market, and they are manufacturing various black and white emulsions under the brand name of Rollei, R-O-L-L-E-I.
Right.
And they are.
There's a guy that's helping me with the 4x5 and the black and white. Richard Buswell, you might have even heard of him. He's a retired physician from Helena, Montana up here, but he takes pictures of old buildings, barns. He has images in 3 or 4 national museums. Norway, he's got stuff in the Smithsonian in the United States, and he's been kind of guiding me a little bit in my choices for stuff that I do here.
Good. It's always best to have a group, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
All right. Well, thank you for the explanation, and thank you for the bio. That helps us all here. So why don't we go ahead and just jump right into it, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Let me share my desktop. And I'm going to bring up Photoshop. Now, I do have a quick question for you. When you in your photo editing, what software do you like to use?
My backbone is Photoshop.
Okay.
For a long time, when I processed like this image here, that was Photomatics, and I'm slowly starting to do tone compression with luminance masking now.
All right.
But that one there was Photomatics.
Yeah.
I've got Aurora on my computer right now, and I'm starting to use it, but it does different things sometimes. I'm not 100%. It's a great program when it works, but it doesn't always work for me.
Okay. It is an interesting piece of software. They gave it to all of us masters here at the Arcanum, and I am very pleased.
It switches perspectives sometimes, and I can't figure out why it does that. It you know, a lot of times after I process something in a HDR, I'll go back to the original and blend it back in, something that's either blown out or, you know, for detail and stuff. And I find with Aurora that doesn't always work, that the perspective of the final image doesn't match the originals to the point that I can't go back and use them as masks.
Okay. Have you gotten your hands on the Nik filter set yet?
Yes.
Have you had an opportunity to play with it? Are you able to go through?
You know, I didn't. I had it a bunch of years ago, and then I didn't use it very much, and then I just downloaded it, and I contacted them to get a thing, and they gave it to me.
Yeah, if they can find you in the database, it's free.
Yeah, it is. They did, and they gave it to me. I have the whole set, so yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, let's talk about this first image. Tell me about your vision in creating this, and what it was that you wish to create, and then I'd like to know the software you used to build it, please.
Well, I was after the geometry of everything there, the line, the horizontal and vertical lines, the pillars on the side, and then the baffles on the roof.
Mm-hmm.
And then the texture. I wanted the texture of the water. I actually shot a version of this that was a little longer, and you lost when the water was more smoothed out with a longer exposure. The reflections of the pillars kind of disappeared a little bit.
Okay.
And this was just I believe it was a five exposure bracket, 2 EVs between, and it was processed first in Lightroom for lens correction and highlight recovery and that kind of stuff, and then it was processed in Photomatics.
Okay, very nice. Boy, the efforts were really worth it. This is a magnificent image. As you could see there, I was playing with it with different crops, different vantages, and there are so many more distinct images inside this that you could probably generate another 2 or 3 discrete detail shots of this that are just as powerful as the original here. You know, the first time I looked at this image, and it everything looks skewed to me. I mean, as I stand and look at this, it looks like this line for the steps up into the main pool is angling down from the left to the right, but in fact it is not. Everything in here is perfect. So there's some sort of an optical illusion going on, and I think what's causing it is down here in the foreground, that this 3-foot marker. It's almost pulling my eyes down to it, and I'm cocking my head as I look at it. But this is absolutely perfectly composed and laid out. I do like the composition as you've got it set up. I like the fact that the foreground has the lip of the lower pool and the 3-foot. That's just really kind of cool there. It's a little distracting, but yet it adds to the overall image, so I wouldn't even consider removing it. The HDR processing is wonderful. And you know what this image does to me? It makes me want to put on a swimming suit and go get wet. It is so very well done. I just love everything about it. The leading lines coming down from the sides going out towards infinity of the air conditioning and heating system. Everything is just so very inviting, even the edges of the pool going down towards that infinity point. I had thought, and if you'll bear with me, that perhaps a tighter crop like this might work, which in fact it does. It gives a whole different flavor and feeling to the image, having a little of the lower pool and all of the upper, yet it still gives enough of the ceiling and the pipes that it's still powerful. What it does, it moves these pipes closer like this, closer to the corners, which draws your eyes more into the image. But this would just be another flavor of this shot. Like I said, the composition that you showed up with is just stunning all on its own. It stands very well on its own powers. So I think that you met your expectations when you envisioned this. 5 images. Now, can I ask you, what made you decide on 5 images and why, please?
Well, I put up to 3, but originally when this one went up, 5 for the thing. I thought we were talking about what I uploaded. No, 5. I like to. I guess if you can call old style HDR, I like to shoot to where I like to have my darkest bracket with very minimal detail in it, and my brightest bracket with very minimal detail in it, so that anything that's overblown, I can go and pull something out of that, something from one of the other brackets and correct it. So I shoot from way, way underexposed to where there's barely any detail to way, way overexposed. So I have, and the same thing in the opposite direction.
Well, I like your choices in that, especially the fact that we've got detail through these windows back here, or doors, whatever these might be.
Those are windows.
Yeah, and I can see trees, I can see structure through this. I am assuming these white windows up here, that these are acid washed, so you cannot see through them, they only let light through?
I think they're steamed over.
Okay.
I think they're steamed over.
Very, very pleasing effect. Even to the point of the reflection in the water of the upper pool, being able to see the details through that window. And I got the impression, now of course I wasn't there, that you could not do this with a single shot. But you said
yes.
You're shooting a 5D, the original 5D?
5D Mark III.
Mark III. Okay. Well, you have a bit more dynamic range there. I'm not exactly sure, but I think your instincts to go for an HDR worked very well on this, and the outcome was worth the effort. It's not often on the first critique that I will award a perfect score, but this one deserves it, and I'm going to give you a 3 on this image. Um, you
Oh,
did
thank you.
a fantastic job, and other than exploring different detail crops of this, which you might want to go back and look at this and doing a detail, a secondary detail crop in here just to see what you can pull out. There are other amazing images hidden inside this one.
I'll play with it.
Now, if you had left the water down here going all the way to the bottom, then I would have suggested a much tighter crop. But since you've got this here as a foreground structure, and I just love the 3 foot there, that makes this whole image work, and it just pulls everything together. Very good job. Most impressive. Now, did you shoot this on the tripod?
Yes.
All righty then. If you would, let's go on to the next image and tell us about this, please.
Some friends of ours lived in this house for years. They raised their kids there, and they're in the middle of retiring, and they sold their house, so they asked me to come and shoot pictures of their house and their yard and stuff. And they have 2 small dogs here, and there's an octobox up to the left of the dog and a window for natural light to the right of the dog. And I just was kind of taken by the play of light on the dog, how well her hair and everything came out and all of this stuff. And what I was trying to capture was, the dog kind of saying, "See ya," kind of putting a mood to them. They've since sold that house, and they no longer live there. And I was kind of trying to capture that mood with this a little bit.
Okay. Well, you succeeded. The portraiture work of the dog is just amazing. You did exceptionally well on the exposure. You chose your aperture wisely to have a good bokeh in the background detail fall off. This is a very well done exposure, and I find that I'm drawn to the eyes of the doggie. It's like she's looking into my eyes and trying to share sadness with me. The dog does look sad.
Yeah.
And you did
whenever her owner isn't around, she has that kind of mopey thing.
Mm-hmm. But very nice, and like I said, I do like the bokeh of the background, and the fact that you made the choice to achieve that. Even the person in the chair is starting to fall off to a little bit of a defocused detail. But having said that, I would like you to consider on this particular image, looking at it with a slightly different crop, if I might. Right now, you've got the dog dead center, bullseyed in the image, right?
Yeah.
If you were to do something like this, hold on, let me work on this a bit. And what I'm looking to do is to get the red of the gentleman or whoever this is sitting here in the chair, so it's not particularly a main element in the composition, and to move the dog down to the lower 1/3 power point right in here, if you would, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Get a little bit tighter on the dog, turn it into a more intimate portrait, if you will. I think if you did something like this, that you would create a much more powerful image. And that's not saying that the image as you presented it is not powerful. It is indeed. But as a viewer looking into the image, now I am concentrating on the wonderful facial expression that this dog is giving you. This sad, mopey sort of look. We could even take it over a bit more, of course there's nothing there on the left, we could come down just a wee bit more like this. So that little bit of red here just will not distract the viewer from it. And we've got the dog's left eye right on that 1/3 power point. I don't know. What do you think? What do you think of this suggestion? How does that impact you? How do you feel?
I like it. You know, in looking at this picture and editing it, I guess over time the red, the person there in the red, that actually I think that's my wife. Slowly, I just kind of tuned it out, but I see what you're pointing at, and I think the red is a distraction.
Okay.
And there's more of the defocused area behind it now, which emphasizes the dog, I think, even better.
Okay. Now, so we'll make that crop happen here, which I just did. And now I'm going to bring up Vivisa here real quick. And I just want to see if we can do anything further on this background back here. I want to see if I take structure and take it to the negative, if I can further blur this out. See what I'm doing? To add to this sense of nothingness in the background. And all I'm doing is I'm copying this control point around, and I'm going to put it on your wife's knee as well. And then I'm going to put a control point on the dog and add just a slight bit more of structure, just to bring out some highlights in the fur right here, and to further isolate the dog from that background. See how I'm overemphasizing the structure and the details of his fur. Okay. And let's just say okay on this. And this is one of the I'm sure since you had the Nick tools, you are aware of what this is and what it does.
Oh yeah.
Let me blow this up a bit. And let's look at a before and after now, okay? See how just adding structure brought the lighting up here on this side of his head and gave more sense of detail here. It makes a very intimate portrait of that dog. In fact, this is so good, what you've captured here. You might want to eventually take your image of this and give your friends a canvas print of this, because this is worthy of hanging. Not what I've done. Just
I like that a lot, the way it is there. I do. That's very nice.
Yeah, just your original capture. There is so much in there that you can do with that image. And the only real improvements that I could suggest, like I said, we're cropping it in tighter because the dog is our subject with that wonderful facial expression. And then de-emphasizing the background even more with negative structure using Vivisa. And then a little positive structure here on the fur on this side of him, and on these strands sticking out that goes up above the dog. It makes the image have a 3D effect. We're actually being drawn into the image. Okay. Now, when I work with black and white, I always tell everybody that I'm teaching to try and build in a series of steps, ladder steps, if you will, that draw the viewer into the image. And you've got it here. You have this dark area of the couch, all right, coming down here that the dog's got. Then you have this wonderful portrait of the doggy, and then we go up here to a lighter area of the background that's diffused and out of focus, so it doesn't really hold our attention. But having this 1, 2, 3 step into the image really gives the entire image a dimension, a 3D effect, if you will, that will hold your attention or hold the attention of your viewers. And it's a very powerful tool in composition and post-processing if you can build those steps in. We didn't have to build them in this case. You had already done that in camera, which was well conceived and executed. But this is a truly wonderful image. So do you agree with these minor changes?
Oh yes. Oh yes. Like that's fabulous looking.
All right. I'm going to give
When
you.
I processed it originally, what I did is after I did all the color work and everything on it, I ran a high pass filter.
Mm-hmm.
And then I basically put a mask in and just I think it was 1.5 or 2 pixel high pass I jumped the image and then desat it into it so I have a black and white layer.
Mm-hmm.
And then I put about a 1.5 or 2, I can't remember now, pixel high pass on it, and then I blended it back in as a overlay, I believe, overlay or soft light, one of the two. And then I just put a mask on it, and then just blanked everything out, and just painted the dog alone in there to bring that texture back into the dog.
Okay. All right. I have to tell you, that's an awful lot of work, and the results were worth it. But we could probably get right to the same finish just in the Nik filters alone.
Yeah, I see that. I'm watching what you did there. That's fabulous.
Okay. Wonderful image, Joe. I really love this one. Okay. I like the image that you gave us here. What's going on with Mike? There we go. Great job. I'm going to give you 2.5 on that one, okay?
Okay.
So let's talk about this one. Tell me the story of this shot.
We'd been in the car for, like 12 hours, got a speeding ticket, got to the Oregon coast, got into our hotel, and this sunset started happening, and my wife walked down to the beach, and by the time I gathered up a camera and a tripod and started coming down behind her, she was in front of me, and this whole sunset just laid out in front of us, and I shot that from back behind her by I don't know, maybe 150 feet or so. Some zoom there. I metered off of the sand in front of the birds there.
Okay.
And I just like the silhouette. I just like the picture a lot.
Yeah, I do too. The exposure's dead on for what you want for a sunset. I love the colors. I love the effect of the slightly blue cast waves that we're seeing here coming in. The birds out here add a whole level of complexity to the image that's very satisfying. I love the feel of this. Having your wife here almost turns this into a greeting card, don't you think?
Yeah, I like it. I put some Ipsum text on it up in the upper corner and down in the right corner, and I sent a copy of it to the hotel we were staying at.
Ah, what did they say?
They bought the rights to use it. Well, they reserved the rights to use it. They didn't buy the image outright, but they basically sent me a check and said that they would like to use it at some point in the future. So I still retain the ownership of the image right now.
Well executed there, man. That is being on the ball. And that is one of the secrets to being a successful photographer who actually makes money. Yeah, like you said, this is wonderful. This is a greeting card or a postcard. She's a little off that power line. The 1/3 line is really kind of more here, but it's close enough that it doesn't matter. The colors are dead on. The silhouette's lovely because that could be any woman in the world there, couldn't it?
Yes, it could.
and I love everything about it. I think your post-processing was perfect. Um, I don't know. I'm going to have to give you a 3 on this, okay? This is just a stunning, stunning image.
There's a the I'm not even sure who makes it now at this point. I've been using it for so long, but Intensify is a
Intensify Pro.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I put the texture in the sand there and the water in with.
Okay. Well, good job. Good job. See, you're not afraid of post-processing, so that puts you well ahead of the curve. Um, so, yep, that's definitely a 3 image. I really like that one. All right, let's go into your 4th image, please.
This is Mission San Juan Bautista in San Juan Bautista, California. What I was trying to get was that crosses. That's a real small graveyard. I mean, there's some people have living rooms or at least the footprint of a house that's smaller than what that graveyard is out there, and there's 450 people, mostly Indians from like the late 1700s, early 1800s, buried in the old Spanish land grant days.
Wow, that's a lot of people.
That in a small space.
Yeah.
And there's nothing, looking around, there's not a lot of anything historical that says that they were abused or anything. It always amazed me. But the texture, what I was after basically was the texture, the leading from the warmth of the tile floor to the kind of the California hills in the back there. And I included this one because I racked my brain on this one, how to present it,
Okay.
And this one was this was also the product of a real broad what do you call bracket. The scene of the cross and the hills behind it are, I think they're 6 EVs difference from 6 or 8 EVs difference from the exposure of the inside of the church there.
Are you an engineer?
No.
It's just very rare to hear somebody refer to changes in intensity as dB anymore.
Oh.
But yeah, no, I love this, and I love what you're trying to do. I'm just trying to see if another crop might work a little bit better. And while, I can say, yeah, well, perhaps, but I also like the effect of those stained glass windows. I think that your target image of having this cross was very well done. We've got detail out here in the outside. We've got detail here in the inside. But I find the roof line here coming down at an angle to be slightly distracting. But let me ask you, if you had moved a little to the right and repositioned this shot, would this cross have been out of the image?
Yeah, I went back and forth, and that was about as centered as I could make the cross. If I went the other way, the cross actually disappeared, and that tree out there, actually, the trunk of that tree started to come in.
What if
I went to the right?
What if you had opened this second door?
I never even thought about that. I was just kind of grateful that they were allowing me to take pictures in there without saying anything to me.
Were there other people in the church with you?
Yeah, there were not a whole lot. I think there was 2 other groups there. And I just, like I said, I was just kind of grateful that the people, the powers that run that place and everything were allowing me to kind of, because I was dragging a lot of stuff around with me there. I had 2 bags and a tripod and a camera, and so it was no small.
Yeah. Were the other groups photographers, or were they people that belonged to the church?
They were just, I don't know, tourists or whatever. San Juan Bautista is like a little tourist town.
Yeah.
The downtown section, there's buildings there that go back to the late 1700s.
Okay. Well, I've kind of got a saying that I throw around here in the cohort, and it's that sometimes you get the bear and sometimes the bear gets you. And as presented, there isn't much that you could do, especially if you didn't want to move things inside of the church because of being grateful for being in there, to balance the image any more than you already did. Normally, I would say when you see something like this with the angle coming down, you did get these straight. Now, you must have straightened these in Photoshop.
Right. Yeah. Well, that and did a lens correction in Lightroom first, and then
Okay.
then just flattened everything in Photoshop. Did
All
a
right.
little perspective.
How wide was the lens you were shooting with?
I think 24 there.
Okay. And this is another row of pews starting right here, correct?
Right. I was actually standing between a set of them, I think.
Okay. Sometimes with images like this, you just have to look for alternative angles on the subject. And in this case, the main subject is the cross, but you're trying to keep the stained glass windows with these wonderful warm colors showing through. All right? And this detail of the floor is utterly amazing. The exposure that you've got here is dead on. But there are a couple of negative aspects to the image. First, we have whatever these are hanging down. It must be part of the window treatment for each of those.
Right. And I'm not sure exactly what function they serve.
Yeah, I might have just selected this and done a fill and taken this one out because it's a bit distracting and it doesn't offer anything to improve the image. Now these do, okay, because we can see the whole structure. And I also would have looked at this and realized that we were going to deal with an extreme angle and skew because we're shooting inside of an architectural environment with a wide-angle lens, and everything's going to be angled and skewed, and it makes it difficult. So I probably would have tried to have lined up centered on the door on this line here coming back, so moved over here maybe about 3 steps. And then tried to have opened that door so you could still get your cross. See what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it would have worked. It may not have. You might have lost that cross altogether.
Well, I actually have another view of this, and I thought about it. That is kind of straight on, like you were suggesting there. And I thought about just going into Photoshop and just taking the view out the window of the tree out and putting the cross in.
Mm-hmm.
Just combining kind of this view with, but I haven't done it yet because the perspective is different enough that I'm going to have to sit down and really work at it to flatten that.
Like I said, this is one of those hard case images. You're trying to get that cross as the main subject, and you chose the location where the cross worked.
Right. I settled, I guess, I don't know if settled is the right word, but I chose to shoot there and kind of in that thing because what caught my eye at the time because I walked back and forth a couple of times, but the line of light coming, the cross and then the line of light coming in the door, they kind of lined up.
Yeah, they do. So like I said, that's why I asked what your intent was before we start each of these pictures. And
so this one troubled me. It still troubles me, but that's why I included it, is I wanted to hear.
Yeah. Or a tighter vertical crop of just the door.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, these pews, edge right up to the edge of this cutout for the door, this small hallway, this alcove.
Right, and there's just on the left side. There's that little wooden. I don't even know what the heck that serves, but it's that little, and it comes up real close to the door too. And so there's no way to just frame that evenly. You either get the big end of the pew, and then I don't know if that's a kneeler that somebody stuck behind the pews there, or what exactly there is there, but there was no way to kind of make that symmetrical.
Yeah, this is definitely one of the bear shots. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Now, what is this dark brown line going across the entire top of the image?
I think it's like a curtain holder, kind of like a curtain. And I may be wrong, but I think in old times when they did like a funeral or something, they would have a stand with the casket there, and then those doors would be open, and the cemetery was right there, so they would pull the curtains back to that doorway, and then there was some symbolism to passing the
so this is a solid piece of wood that's actually straight in the image when these others aren't.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
I have no idea other than that. That's my only thought that could be.
Okay. All right.
An interesting piece of trivia, that hillside in between the back of that graveyard and that hillside you see in the background there,
mm-hmm.
That is the San Andreas Fault.
Nice.
California.
Nice. Now, is this east of the mountain range in California?
That's no, right by. That's just right off the coast. That's
This is
where
the
Monterey is. If you know where Monterey is, it's about it's probably about 40 miles as the crow flies from Monterey. It's right off Highway 101 by about 10 miles to the east.
Yeah, I'm going out to California myself again in a month for 2 weeks just to explore. But this is wonderful. I love the warm textures you've captured. This light coming through these colored windows is just amazing. The textures on the floor, the finish of the walls. You really nailed this exposure. Then this is a hard one to do. But
I took my exposure off of the white wall on the shaded, where not on the left side, on the right side, where there's no direct light on it.
Okay. Do you use the zone system to calculate your exposures?
Yes, I do actually.
So what did you do? Move this down to like zone 4?
I think it put it at zone 5 for me, and I darkened it. I went down by one stop. Yeah,
yep,
so that's pretty much what I did.
Yep. So you put it in zone 4. Yeah, that's one thing that I've been teaching the cohort here recently, is using the zone system for digital photography, because it guarantees a perfect exposure. And I'm glad to see that you're a practitioner of that. All right.
I learned that a long time ago, so I kind of always look at whenever I set up to take a picture, I try to find the brightest and the darkest, and then try to find the neutral gray, and then if I can meter from that, I meter. I have an older spot meter that seems to work really pretty good.
Yeah.
So I just walk right up with my camera as close as I can in spot mode, and then I'll just take a meter right off of whatever.
What is your older spot meter you use?
I don't know the model. It's a Seconic.
Like the 508.
It's got the little dome on top of it. Mm-hmm. It's not the fanciest one that they made. When I got it, it was the cheapest one. I paid about $200 for it.
Okay.
And that was probably 8 or 9 years ago, and it was the cheapest one they made that would do both flash and incident light.
All right. Lovely. Okay, I'm going to give you 2.5 on that one as well. But like I said, that was a tough image, Joe. I mean, trying to balance what you wanted your main compositional element to be with the irregularities of the architectural skews is a really hard thing to do. You could have really used a tilt and shift lens in there, couldn't you?
I thought about
Okay. Excuse me. All right, let's talk about this one.
it. Well, that hot springs where I took that other picture is straight back. You're looking almost directly at it back there, right where the pine trees and the snow kind of meet. This
Okay.
was taken early morning, and there, in the colorized version of it, the sky was very pink, um, and it was cold, and that was what I was trying to portray. It was about 6 below 0 that morning, and the wind was blowing. And I came very close to freezing my fingers on that. That was like a wake-up call for me. That taking that picture that morning, how fast you can. And I even have my car set up as a back as a windbreak behind me.
Wow, you thought of everything, didn't you?
So what I did is I took the original image that I had, and I processed it in Aurora as a single image HDR just to bring out the contrast in it and darken the sky.
You did?
Um,
All right,
and then
see, I don't have any raw images here. From now on, when we do these, if you would also provide the raw images.
sure, I can do. I didn't know that you would want them, or else I would have put them up. And unfortunately, like I said, my home computer where all that is about 300 miles away right now.
Yeah, I hear you, and that's fine. That's fine. Okay, that's all I needed to see. So this is a single raw processed as a tone mapped HDR, and you did this to balance
Right.
the light against the grays and the darks.
Right.
I like the composition. What lens did you use on this?
That was a 24 to 105 or whatever the standard Canon zoom, and I think it was zoomed fairly out. I think it was around 100.
Okay. The first thing I noticed is the fact that all of the fence posts are perfectly vertical across the entire image. So I know you can't be real wide, or you would have these skewed in at angles on the outer edges. You've got a nice balanced image. The sky is a bit dark, but this is pre-sunrise, correct? Or pre-sunset?
Right. Pre-sunrise.
Okay, so that's going to be that way no matter what we do. And if you'll bear with me for just a second, I'm going to toy with something here. I'm just going to bring up Vivisa real quick, and I just want to see what kind of information is still in here. You gave me a TIFF image, which is good. I want to see if we just brighten that snow a bit. I know it's supposed to be dark, but I want to see what happens if we just brighten it a wee bit. And then drop an anchor point up here to take that back. Okay. Right now, the image has that look and feel of the typical snow image that's metered off the snow and then not compensated. But you got to be careful because we don't want to change the sky, because that sky is very interesting. I just want to see what it would look like by brightening the snow a wee bit, because my eyes are automatically being drawn to the bright peaks, and I'm not really looking at anything else in the image, even though you have this wonderful compositional element right here that sucks us in at an angle and takes us out to the middle, and we go up to the sky, but we never come back and look. So let's, I don't know, what do you think about brightening it a bit? I should have protected the mountain peaks too, which I didn't, because I like your original mountain peaks better than what this has done. But I do think that if we look at this snow, tell me what your thoughts are on that.
As you brighten it, I do like that better. I do like that. I played with it a lot, and I had a difficult time. And you can kind of see that there's like a shadow around that small pine tree on the left by the sign there.
There is.
And that, when I was playing with it, it just kept skewing with me. And then actually I was looking at it the other day after I had already uploaded it, and I got to thinking that possibly, and I haven't done this, so I don't know if it would work, but a zone 5 luminance mask, and then duplicating the image and then blending it back on it, brightening the snow that way, and then blending it back on it, so it might isolate that tree a little bit.
Yeah, you could do that. That would work, but that would be a lot of work.
There's a thing. I don't know if you're familiar with Lumenzia. It's a Photoshop panel, and it's automated, and it takes all of the work of creating luminance masks out. It's really kind of a slick little tool.
All right, I have that in something called the TK tool set as well.
I think I've seen, both of those are by Greg Benz, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I've seen it. I've never used his TK tool set, but I do have Lumenzia, and I use it almost daily on my computer. And he's actually in the process of updating it now to make it even a little easier to use.
What I'm playing with now are just some of the recipes in Silver Effects Pro. I like the fact that it brought out some details in this area here of the sky, but it's made it way too noisy up here.
Right.
But that would be easy to correct by dropping a control point up here. And taking the structure down. If I could get my finger on the mouse right, don't you think?
Mm.
Yeah, see how I took that noise right out of there?
Mm. So using the structure in Lumenzia will reduce noise. Well, was one way to go after noise.
Yeah, does this other plugin give you that capability?
No, well, the reason I like to use the luminance masks these days more than even the HDR software is that it seems like all the HDR software has noise inherent in processing.
It does.
And luminance masks, you're using your own image, you're masking your own image, and so you're introducing a whole lot less noise. The whole potential for noise just is much less when you do that.
Yeah, that's true. Luminous net masks are indeed very powerful.
They are.
And there's
maddening to figure out.
Everything that we do on these images, there's probably a dozen other ways to doing it.
Oh, and then some.
But I do like this. I think this image has great potential just as it's composed. But I do think that this has lost the impact from this point down to the bottom of the image because everything's that darker gray.
Mm-hmm.
And even though I realize that the sun isn't hitting this, my eyes don't care, and I am being drawn away from this, and I'm just following this ridge line of the mountain peaks that are in the sun. So brightening this lower half of the image, even by one stop, would make a huge difference of the impact on this. And this tree, this is so crisp and sharp. I I'd love to find that all by itself and get up close and just do a picture of this with the mountains in the background and shooting at an angle so I didn't get any of those fence lines in it. There's just so many wonderful components to this. Of course, you said you were freezing your butt off too.
Oh man, it was cold. It was cold. That wind, it wasn't as cold as the wind just robbed everything. I sat in my car and held my hands on the heater vents for a while.
Mm-hmm.
What's interesting now is right where that picture was taken, there's a herd of elk. There's about between 50 and 100 head of elk that come down early in the morning and the evening. They're all over. The highway department actually has flashing signs up to watch for them and stuff, that they've invaded that spot there with the snowfall.
Well, I like that image too, but I could see just a little bit more work in that for brightening the lower half of the image. But it's still a very powerful image as you presented it, and I'm going to give you a 2.5 on that as well. So after your first 2 images, you had enough points to move on up to the next challenge level. I think your images were all very well done, and I am very happy that you shared those with me. You do seem to have a good eye for it. Of course, we tell that to photographers all the time, and they say, well, what exactly does that mean? Well, to me, it's that your images, as you give them to me, draw me into them. And I will sit and I will study them for a long period of time, trying to soak up the detail and the story that you're telling in your capture. So you did very well. I'm exceptionally pleased with the images for your first critique that you've provided. And I can't wait to see what you do next.
Thank you.
Now, having said that, I would also like you to revisit a couple of these in the future and see what we could do to even make them more powerful.
One of my goals, I guess, to kind of touch back on what I want to do. One of my goals is I do shoot a lot at late sunset and early morning like that. And one of the things that I struggle with is that foreground to the background color, kind of like that black and white that we just looked at, and that's, to be honest with you, that's a lot of the reasoning that I included this one, is because I struggle with that. It's something that drives me crazy. I look at it, I play with them. I don't know if I'm being hypercritical to myself or what, but I have a hard time displaying that. Getting that happy median going from the foreground to the background and still leaving like that it's very obvious that the mountains are in sunlight and everything isn't.
Well, it's true that we are our own worst critics, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, maybe we can help you with that over the next month or two. But you're starting well ahead of the normal curve, so. Thank you for sharing those with me. What did you guys think? Come forth.
Had a great set. I really liked the silhouette of his wife against the shore. It was a nice sunset. I like the mountain set a lot.
Thank you.
I liked the whole entire set.
Yeah.
I think it showed his capabilities, and he has so much to bring to us. I mean, with his 30 years of experience. Thank you for being a part of our cohort.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. Well, I'm going to stop the broadcast here.